We're clocked in, people. Clocked
We're
in.
clocked in. I feel physically ill.
Guys, class is
We
in
did it.
session.
This bitch had out the spiral notebook.
Like, you're telling me it's not Padme and Anakin?
And dare I say, I disagree. Run, bitch! But now we're just, like, sitting ducks. What humanizes a scary man more than an infant child?
She got a bomb. If we pull a Shailene Woodley in Divergent, I'm gonna end it.
I've ascended my body.
My heart breaks for you, Kai. I'm so sorry.
Girl, put that in the first one.
I'm scared. I'm so scared. It might be the standard. Thanks for listening to my crazy theories. How's everyone doing?
So good. I missed everyone. I really missed filming. If you didn't know, Lucy and I went on vacation and it was really nice. I wish I was still there to this day. But I did miss filming. Like a lot, so.
Yeah, so when we permanently have our TikTok or our TikTok studio, no, our podcast studio, it's gonna be in North Carolina.
It is.
So I am accidentally wearing the same top we wore last time we filmed, so
that's okay. It is a new day though.
Yes. Completely different week even.
Yeah.
Magical.
Completely different month, actually.
Oh my god. So true. Terrifying thought. Well, honestly, we read a lot of books on vacation. I did get through a couple books. Yeah. I've not been updating my Goodreads. Sorry. Oops.
I know, I'm kind of like, where is she? What is she doing? Because we do talk about books a little bit on the side, just, as actual friends, but we try to save a lot of our comments for here. So I'm kind of just like, I don't know what she's reading. So this is fun. We get to find out, even though I was with you on vacation and I know what you read. But tell the people.
Oh, this is so dated. So Ruthless Vow, just put a pin right in that. I'm at 70%. My goal is to finish it by the end of July. No comment on that though. I am also reading If You Lived Here, You'd Be Famous by Now. I'm only a little bit into that. It's a little slow. Memoirs are not my favorite, but I do still want to read it. So we're going to also try and finish that by the end of July. I read and finished Carrie Soto is Back. Great book. If you love challengers, or if you vice versa, you need to read this book. It was amazing. I could hear the music. It was also if you were an athlete growing up or in college or something and you had to leave that, or maybe you're older and you went professional, it's such a great book because it deals with her struggle of losing that title and that greatness of and that identity of only ever being this amazing athlete.
Yeah.
But it's not super touchy on that. It's just kind of it just is happening while it's going. And I love Taylor Jenkins Reid. I'm such a huge fan of hers, and I've read most of her newer books, the 4 or 5 that have been Malibu Rising, Daisy Jones and the Six, and stuff like that. Super great. Want to read more of her stuff. I also read, what is that called? The Summer of Broken Rules. Super great book. If you're on vacation or you want to feel like you're on vacation, read that book because it was super beach ready. And it made me want to play Assassin. And it made me think of when I was on dance team and we would play Assassin at our summer camp, which was super fun. But just a super easy read. I don't know who wrote that. K.L. Walther. Yeah. Rachel said she read one of her other books, but her books are really condensed in time. So the book only takes the span over a week, and it'll say at the beginning they're broken into sections of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever, which is really cool. And then the epilogue circles back and talks about their the future, but not a lot to say on all of that. All great. I think I gave The Summer Broken Rules a 4-star, Carrie Soto's Back a 5-star, and then I guess those are the only 2 that I've finished. Reading the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying a Vampire, I'm maybe 20 or 30 pages in. I love a mystery thriller, so going well so far. It's kind of giving a little bit of The Help, because it is based in old, uh, the South, but it's the
Yes.
80s. But I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm excited to see. Rachel, what have you been reading?
Well, I was a little well, I technically, I'm gonna say I read 2 books while we were on vacation because I finished both of them like the day after I got back home because I had like
Hmm.
20-ish% left of these 2 books.
But you read
Um,
majority on vacation.
yes. So I read a novel love story. It's right here. She's right there, the blue one. And I did give it 5 stars because her books make me have such an emotional reaction. I feel physically ill when I've read all 3 of her books now. And I just feel physically ill when I read her books. I don't know what it is. It's not the romance that makes me feel ill because the romance is very typical. Like it's almost Hallmarky in a way. Like, oh, you know they're gonna get together in the end. Like there's no
Hmm.
shock. Um, but this one, there was like a third act breakup that I was not expecting and I was so upset about. Um,
Ooh.
sorry, spoilers. um, but um, it made me ill. I was like, I don't even want to finish the book because I don't want like I know it's gonna have a happy ending because like her books, always end like that. And it was a really cute way to end the book. Like I liked the way they resolved. It wasn't an issue. She kind of let him go.
Hmm.
Um, because he's fiction. Well, he's a fictional character,
Okay.
kind of. Um, but the way they like come back together in the end is really cute. But the way she writes books and like talks about her main character, it's like these people are real. It's like so scary. She's great at like character development. Um, so 5 stars for her. I don't think her book will ever not be like 5 stars for me because they make me feel something. And while
Hmm.
I enjoy a lot of the books that I read, and I'm like, oh yeah, that was great. These ones make me ill. Like I feel like a pit in my stomach when I read her books. Positive,
Mm.
but like that's just how I can't really describe it. Um, I also read the 5th book in the Eden's Small Town Wyoming series, and this one was about Lila, um, who is the other twin. There's two. There's a set of twins, and they're both girls.
Okay.
This was the other twin. I love the world, like the world. It's Montana. I love the
I love
setting.
Montana.
We have to go.
We
But this one felt a little rushed to me. Like in my review, I wrote like it kind of just felt like the author was like, well, if I'm writing a book about all the siblings, she kind of needs a book. Let's just like put a murder mystery plot over it. The murder mystery plot, she's good at writing like a mystery. She
oh.
really is. But she kind of threw this like insta love romance over a murder mystery. And I was kind of like, okay, so love her. Like, Lila's great. She was never my favorite sibling, but I gave it like 3, 4 stars. I mean, it was worth it in like, I love seeing like little glimpses of the other siblings in the book. Um,
I think once I get through some of the books I'm in the middle of, I want to pick up that series because I got home and
it's
I was like, I want to pick that up.
it's good. It's really enjoyable. And it's very fast paced, which I really like. Like I feel accomplished when I read the books.
Hmm.
Um, I also read this in probably 2 days. It's another book that I brought on vacation with me but never got around to. It's called Dishonestly
Oh,
Yours. I tore through this. This was amazing. It's about a con artist family, two families, and they're both con artists and they work together. But it's about the main two daughters of the family, Phoebe and Haley,
Mm-hmm.
and Haley's older brother, Rocky. And it's a brother's best friend romance. But through their cons, like the family's cons together, Phoebe and Rocky always have to like fake date or fake be in a relationship. And so like there's this kind of complicated like we've always loved each other, but like is this just like because we've been like put together for our family's cons? Like, oh my god, this was so good. The twist and turn. Oh my god. And it ends on a cliffhanger, so I already know there's going to be a second book. And I'm so excited because I really
That
love these
makes me want
characters.
to
I was
read
like,
it.
they're so good.
That sounds good.
And then
Adding a plethora of books to the list of things I need to read.
that one was really good. Like, 8 tore through that. Sometimes the
Mm-hmm.
chapters are a little long, but they do this thing in the book, kind of breaks up the plot, where the authors go back and they rehash some of the old cons that the families do.
Ooh, I
It's
like
really
that.
good. It's really good.
Noted. Okay.
Well, is it time?
Guys, class is
We
in
did it.
session.
It's time to talk about probably Lucy's most anticipated book of the year, dare I say?
Yes, for sure.
Reckless by Lauren Roberts. Getting my notes
I've
out.
I have so many thoughts. I have 2 physical written pages of notes
This
because
girl sent me. Go ahead.
I finished it, stared at a wall for a good 45 minutes thinking about it, wrote some bullet points down in my phone, realized I was all over the place, and then yesterday I sat down and organized them so I wasn't like just word vomiting into the ether.
I'm so excited. She sent me a photo yesterday. This bitch had out the spiral notebook and the ballpoint pen. I was like, so I just have like very main bullet points on my phone, but I'm excited to hear what you have to say and maybe we'll agree on some of the things. Also, I got my
Yeah.
little blueberry bookmark that I use when I read Powerless books because she loves blueberries.
Oh,
So weird.
I think I used my like cowgirl one you made me. I realized I lost 2 bookmarks and I don't know where they went. So I gotta to find those today. Whole thing. But I'm also packing to move, so everything is just like everywhere.
I gotta do
That's
that.
not the point. I have a few. Here's the main topics. I have overall thoughts, obviously, the proposal, the journal, the little sister story, and then the future novella,
Yeah.
potential novella. I don't know. Um, I still haven't rated this. I like I said, I'm behind on my Goodreads, so there's no rating for this in Goodreads. But I guess I would give it like a 4.
So I rated it, but I didn't leave a review because I didn't want Lucy to see like my thoughts yet because we were going to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I also gave it a 4. I did give Powerless, the first one in the series, I did give that a 5. That book, incredible.
Yes. So, well, okay. My first thought was, and this was like early on in reading the book, like maybe the first like quarter of it. Powerless was giving Hunger Games, but Reckless was giving Star Wars / Dance of Thieves.
It definitely was giving Dance of Thieves. The whole like forced
Mm-hmm.
proximity, on the run.
But like, I think it's giving Star Wars because one, they're in the desert. You're telling me they're not in Tatooine.
So true.
And also, I think this is Kai's villain origin story. Dare I say, like, obviously he has a villain origin story, but I think this is the like final straw where he's just gonna be evil. Like, you're telling me it's not Padme and Anakin?
That's so true. I didn't even think about that.
So I'm also like a big Star Wars nerd. So,
Yeah.
anyways, fun fact about me. So I wasn't I'm not getting like any content about this on TikTok. I don't know
I
why.
was, but I kept skipping it because I hadn't read it yet. So I was like, no. So now it's not showing me any content. Like I would have to search it out to like
Mm.
find it.
But Rachel did tell me, she's like, a bunch of people were not liking this one, and even you felt that it wasn't the same as Powerless. Like Powerless had a very different feel to it than Reckless.
Yes.
And then we saw that video from Lauren Roberts.
Yes. And where she said that this book is kind of the breather in between Powerless and obviously going into Fearless. She's like, oh, we needed this breather of just being with Peyton and Kai. And dare I say, I disagree. She did
Really?
so good at the high stakes, high reward, like Hunger Games situation that I felt a little. I wasn't on the edge of my seat reading this book.
I
The
wasn't on the
banter
edge of my
was
seat.
bantering, don't get me wrong. But sometimes it felt a little redundant. Like, we're just bantering because Lauren Roberts knows that she can do banter really well, and that's what got her really popular. So she just kind of like banter vomited in this book.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong, it was bantering, but at the same time, I'm like, do we really need to be arguing right now? Like, run
Well,
away from the villains or like the, people. Like, just, we don't need to be saying that, like, you have an ugly face. Run, bitch. Like, it's, I don't know.
well, so my opinion on this was like, I kind of liked that this felt different. So I thought this was very much Kai's book. And I didn't go back and like count chapter for chapter, but I felt like the first Powerless was Peyton's book. It's
Yeah.
very much about her focusing on like her power that lacks, and her journey to feeling an outsider and conquering these games and like trying to convince everyone that she's not like this terrible awful person, just or like diseased girl, just because she doesn't have powers, and all these ordinary people aren't either.
Yeah.
um Whereas this one was a lot more of Kai's POV. Whoa. But I also, on that note, like in the first book, I feel like his, and I didn't reread it, so this is just like off the dome from like 6 months ago. Um, he was very action based, where he was making her dance and all these things because it was from Peyton's POV, but this one felt a lot more from Kai's POV. So there's a lot of internal and like poetic banter, which I really liked.
Yeah.
But
I definitely love, like, I didn't hate the book. And I
no,
love
yeah.
Kai. Um, and I love getting his little nuggets from his
Mm-hmm.
brain. Um, but it just felt a little like, okay, so let's go. Let's get somewhere, you know?
Yeah, but I think if it's gonna do what she says it's gonna do, where like Powerless was this intense blah blah,
Oh,
and
yeah.
this was supposed to be breather, the next one better deliver. And if it doesn't, I think people are going to be raging. And I also think, for example, when we read these cowboy romance books that have 5, 6 books in the series, they're typically all out, and we read them almost back to back.
Mm-hmm.
And so when there's a filler book, it doesn't feel as terrible because you can just move on to the next one super quickly. Whereas this, we are having to wait months, almost a year, till
Yeah.
next April. And so it feels kind of like a letdown coming off of Powerless and not having that immediate pickup into Reckless. No, Fearless.
Yeah. Fearless. I think, like, I was going to talk about um, Fourth Wing and
Mm-hmm.
Nightbane, two fantasy series who are going to have probably 3 books, let's say, um, who don't have sequels immediately out, and who, like, Lucy and I read pretty much. Well, we read Fourth Wing and we had both the books out, so it was nice to
Mm-hmm.
like Fourth Wing, Iron Flame. But now we're just like sitting ducks waiting for Onyx Storm, and I'm like, I don't know. I mean,
I don't know if I really care anymore.
I kind of miss it though, but I think that's just because I'm watching House of the Dragon, so I kind of miss fantasy at this time. But
Mm-hmm.
I will say, waiting for Skyshade. That's the
Yeah.
third Lightlark. I am on the edge of my seat. I have been on the edge of my seat since finishing Nightbane. I don't know what crack she puts in those books, but both books were fantastic. And I never felt like there was never a change of pace. It was very consistent,
Mm-hmm.
dare I say. But I mean, every author has their own like what they want to do, and obviously Lauren Roberts wanted to give us a breather of like just very character driven, where I felt like Lightlark is very like let's keep the plot moving, you know.
Yeah.
But also,
I did.
Alex Astor is out here releasing books. Like she just don't like.
I think she wakes up, writes, and then goes like 8 hours straight sleep. Like there is
Yeah,
no TikTok for 45 minutes. Right.
yeah.
um. Well, what's crazy to me is Lauren Roberts wrote this when she was 18 in college, and that was a couple years ago. I think the first one was self-published in 2020. So I'm in my opinion, I feel like she's had the whole series already written. Why are we waiting till April?
To like create that need, like the need for the book of like, oh god, I want like kind of the edge of your seat feeling, but you can't give us this and then expect us to be on the edge of our seat because guess what? We all knew Kit was going to do that. There was no like because in Nightbane, the end of it,
Yeah.
there was no it was like, oh, of course he did that because he's kind of go.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Well,
very passionate about these fantasy books today.
yeah, so I texted Rachel and I was like, I think he's gonna do something he shouldn't do. And you could call it in literally one of like not the first Kit chapter, but like this. I think there's like four Kit chapters total, and like the second one because of the advisor. And I don't like that. I think we should have been a little bit more secretive about it, like Lauren Roberts to the reader, because I think he could have not had that conversation with the advisor, or like the advisor could have come in and been like, you're going to do something insane, but like I support you or whatever. And you're like, what decision is he talking about? Then we cut to him going to see Kai's mother, his stepmom, and been like, the box in my pocket, and be like, what box? And then when we hit the end, been like, you're to be my wife, to where it's like a little bit more secretive. If he's not always thinking about this box, he's going to make this crazy decision, but we still don't know what it is because it's not immediately like, the advisor set the velvet box in front of me. Immediately, I know.
I
Well,
just like
honestly, for a hot second, I thought he was going to marry his stepmom, but I was like, that's not very in this universe. I don't know, like, it's a weird, like, power grab thing, but I was like, that makes no sense. I don't, it was, for like a split second, I was like,
slay. We're getting some like House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones going on. I mean,
it was like a random thought, and then immediately I was like, no, I don't know why I thought that.
that's funny though. I had something else. I just kind of talked about that, but yeah, like we knew he was going to do that, because he like she wasn't being very secretive in her writing. So I agree, she should have drawn that out, and then at the end, it could have been like, "What do you mean you're going to propose?
Yeah,
we saw your POV, but you never told us." Which what I do want to know, why the fuck is he proposing? Like, what kind of power play is that?
I think in the first book, Peyton. Well, okay, actually, I do have a big theory about this. So this circles back to the Ava story. Am I crazy, or did we like never mention this little sister in the first book? Like, not even a vague hint. Or am I just not remembering?
Because again, I didn't reread, so
I didn't reread either. But it was so out of left field, and it felt like, obviously, like I was saying, she wrote Powerless so long ago, and maybe she only picked up Reckless more recently in like the grand scheme of time. But I felt like it was just so out of left field. I don't remember like maybe Kai had said something about the willow tree being a special place, and like maybe I feel like he had also mentioned something about the garden being special, but like never like, oh, this was a special place for like a special person. Like it was just like, this place is special. I have a memory of me and Kit here, and it's like that. I don't know, but I think it was a way to humanize Kai,
I was
obviously.
just about to say that because what humanizes a scary man more than an infant child?
But I feel like he could have done that in a different way. First of all, we've beat the daddy issues to death, pun intended. Um, but like you could have done it with past memories of his mom or past memories of his like of Jax, the brother that is
Oh
adopted,
yeah.
because we didn't really touch on that. Or that cousin they kind of, I remember her, but they reintroduced her in this book. Like there's just so many characters that were already there that we
Mm.
could have easily connected with. But
I
I don't know if
think
you go ahead.
I think they needed to introduce a child that was related to them because it's obviously like we see in the first book they obviously care for Jax and they want to protect him like a brother even though he is
Mm-hmm.
adopted, but they needed to almost, and for some reason, reinstill how awful their father is because it says in Reckless that, oh well, my dad hated Ava because she was so weak. You needed to reinstill that because he couldn't hate Jax because Jax at least had like a power.
Yeah, I think going to be a bigger plot point in the third book, because I think part of the reason Kit is marrying her is to show everyone that or any people aren't diseased or whatever.
Yeah.
But on a bigger note of why Kit decided to marry her. So if you read, I don't know if this is in all the books, but in the Barnes and Noble edition, there's a little blurb at the end, and they did this in the last one, and it pissed me off because I think the beginning they did a blurb in Powerless that was like, here's the beginning, like the first chapter of Reckless, but it was like low key different than this one. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe I'm stupid. I didn't read that either. But it's this chapter, an exclusive scene from Kit's POV that he shares a profound moment from his past, and it's 6 years prior to now when they're
Yeah.
training, when Kit's training to be king and Kai's training to be enforcer. The first half of this little secret chapter is him getting pulled out and talking to Kit, and then watching Kai and Ava in the garden. I think that should have been the prologue and been like, who's
Interesting.
Ava? Whatever.
I
But it
agree.
cuts when he's like walking away from the window. Cut. Very end epilogue, like circles back, like whatever. Is the because then it cuts and he actually does go outside and he meets them at the willow tree and he's watching them interact, and he goes on this whole spiel about like not feeling loved. Um
Poor baby.
like I listen to Kai's shouted encouragements, watch the way he smiles up at her shadowy figure. In fact, I've watched them for years. Perhaps being loved begins with the little things: the kisses on the fingers, the spooning of warm broth into another's mouth, the learning of one's very soul, or the memorization of one's lineage. Maybe it's the simple things that grow into something more: willingness, obedience, memorization, perfection in the eyes of Father. If that is the price for adoration, then I'll gladly pay it. And perhaps it all begins with the name he didn't believe I'd remember. And it kind of talks about like that trauma moment, but he's never felt loved by his dad. He's never truly felt loved by Kai because they're not like, they're brothers, but they're not true brothers in his mind, I think. And that's why he's marrying Peyton, because he kind of felt some love from her and he's like gonna chase that. And you see it in like
Oh.
the conversation he has with his stepmom, and she's like, well, we didn't originally love each other, but I was just your father's easy choice after your mother died, and then we learned to love each other, and now I'm dying because I loved him so much. And I think he thinks he can recreate that with Peyton, where like, yeah, I love her and I know she might not like absolutely love me, but we're gonna like fall in love.
I see.
But I think the epilogue and prologue would have benefited from that scene splitted.
I like that. I didn't even think about that. I don't sometimes I'm really bad at having like introspective thoughts like that, but I really liked that. That was good.
Thank you. Thank you. This is what I stared at a wall for 45 minutes about.
Yeah.
Um
I kind of just I like to almost forget not forget, but like put it to the back of my mind because I don't want to feel like that's what I do with like, you know, Dead Romantics, like all of Ashley Poston's books, because I just get so emotional about it that I'm like, I can't handle this right now. I can't do it.
I think I was able to think about this one so much because I wasn't super emotional, because I could see that plot twist coming. This
Yeah.
wasn't a very on the edge of your seat shocking. Like, it was good. I loved the banter. I loved watching it. And I felt like the intimacy was well placed, because sometimes you go forever and you're like, oh my god, you don't hate each other. But because
Yeah.
it was dual POV, like, she paced it really well. Um, okay. Um, here's another thought, and this is about the journal and what I think might happen in the next book. So in this book, there wasn't as many psychic moments, and that really bothered me because the ability isn't actually being a psychic. And if you've ever watched the show Psych, which is tr- crime comedy show where the
Yeah.
main character pretends to be psychic, but really he's just really good at noticing all these details, and then he helps the police station solve crime. Kind of the same thing, ability that Peyton has. So obviously she didn't lose this ability to notice all these small things, and they bring it up every once in a while, like maybe
Mm-hmm.
twice, but she should have been doing that the whole time, because that never left her. And I know she doesn't have to pretend to be psychic anymore, but that ability to be like, so and so has something in their pocket and it's valuable, like, that didn't leave her.
Yeah. And like,
And that
girl,
annoyed
that
me.
ability is so helpful to you. What are you
But
doing pretending you're just like powerless again? I thought we
yeah.
moved on from that.
But again, I think this was Kai's book, so there just wasn't any emphasis on it.
Yeah. I wrote down
I did
that. Continue. No, continue. I
I did like that he went on this whole speech about, Kai was like, "Oh, I would want Ava if she grew up to be just like you." And Peyton was said, "Oh, a criminal." And he said, "No, strong and fearless and blah blah blah." Um so I like that in this book, no, like, we're not calling her skinny and so tiny and she wasn't seen as weak. I feel like Kai always felt this admiration towards her because he was
yes.
evading her a little bit, because he was like, I don't want to see it, but also I think he genuinely appreciated her skills and strengths.
Yeah.
That's
I was just going to say I wrote down about the journal. I felt like that was really glossed over, the whole thing with her parents.
well.
And then you just have like you gloss over the and granted that's probably going to be touched on in the last book, but like you
Mhm.
really just gloss that over, and then you just had like a Rapunzel Flynn Rider cut my hair moment. What's that about? What was that
That
about?
got me. I was like, okay,
Okay.
she got a bob.
I was like, why did you give her a fuck ass bob? Like, no.
If this ever gets adapted into the screen, it better be a cute ass bob. I
Yeah.
swear to God. If we pull a Shailene Woodley in Divergent, I'm gonna end it.
Well, so I in the book it says it's like shoulder, like it just grazes
Yeah.
her shoulders. But I'm like, let's give her some layers. Like, can we just like
I mean,
feather out the bangs a little bit?
yeah, he was going ham. He was giving her just a cut.
Yeah, yeah. He said, okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm just gonna imagine it. Slay.
Yeah.
So my opinion on the journal. Sorry, I got a little off track there, but I also agreed. I thought it was gonna be such a big, like, plot point that her father was gonna be like, well, actually, lame. Lame.
Boring.
But there was two things that piqued my interest. One, the advisor mentioned. So in one of, like, the second Kit chapter, he's talking to the advisor and he specifically says his name. And then in the journal, it says his name again, and she goes, "Oh, the healer from the palace. He's going to be an important thing in the plot later. I know it." And I don't know, it was like weird that I clocked that, but it's going to mean something.
Yeah.
Just, it was sus. I don't know what it means yet, but it's going to mean something. Two, I think they did that because, and she, the way she did it. So she mentioned that her father said she was dropped off on the doorstep, but she didn't. I thought it was going to be like her father was going to be like, well, she actually does have power, but blah, 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 blah. But I think she did it this way, being like, we don't know who her heritage is, but she does actually have power because lucky girl syndrome. And there's moments in this book, and I'm sure if I went back and read it again, I'd notice more of them. But specifically after the journal, they, maybe before, I don't know, but they run into the bandits, and she's like, I'm notching arrows before I even know they're notched, like doing it so fast. And this arrow's coming directly at me at a pretty close distance, and I just batted it out of the air. Have you seen an arrow fly through the air? You don't just bat them out of the air. I think she's the power to control time, and that's also why her hair is silver. And the reason she doesn't have this power that everyone is because no one has this power, and you can have unique powers, but it's so unique and especially to her that they didn't discover it and there's no way to develop it because no one else is like, well, clearly you have this power, let me show you. She's the first one. Lucky girl syndrome.
Sorry, I'm just like, I've ascended my body because I'm just so impressed that you can have these thoughts.
Oh,
Because
okay.
I can't. Because I can't see ahead. Like, I'm just like, it's
Well,
over.
I feel in Powerless I didn't clock as many things like this because I was so on the edge of my seat. But in Reckless, because it was so slow,
Yeah.
I was able to pick up on these things. And then I think when I started seeing, oh, Amazon's here. When I started seeing the proposal, I think they have my mattress. They're backing into the driveway. Sorry, ADD going crazy right now.
And I'm like, I'm
When
waiting
I
for the
saw the
mail truck. I'm like,
proposal, um, it made me start seeing all these other little things.
yeah.
But yeah, mostly my heart breaks for you, Kai. I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry, King, because you've worked so hard and you kind of get
Yeah.
nothing, really.
Well, I think it's going to be such a huge plot point in the end if she still really loves Kai, but she's going to actually marry Kit because she's trying to protect herself, and then she's also going to find out her power, and then Kit's whole plan to be like ordinaries are people too is going to go down the drain. But whatever. Um,
Yeah.
but I wish I felt the shock Kai felt when the proposal happened
I
because I love
know.
the way he talked about it, but I just didn't. I wasn't there with him,
Yeah.
and it upsets me. But also, I want Kai like I want Dylan O'Brien in an ungodly way.
Interesting.
Just that little
I
thought,
love
real
him and I
quick.
respect him. But I don't know if I want him, which is
Oh,
interesting.
this book made me want him.
Like I do really like him. Um, I don't know. I'm loyal to a fault,
Mm-hmm.
and that goes also with like who my like book boyfriends are at the moment or like my crushes. So it's like I can't be, cheating
Oh,
out
okay.
here. Like I'm
I
so loyal that it's just like you know,
oh,
I'm crazy.
that's okay.
I
Loyalty
like
is a
I don't
great
know.
trait.
I think so too, thank you. Um but yeah, I'm watching House of the Dragon right now and I'm just that's kind of like ideal. I oh my
Well,
god, I'm also speaking of that, also like 85% of the way through the Drago fanfiction I'm reading.
mm-hmm.
It's so good. And then I started downloading others because I was like, I need a hit. Like, I need another hit. But none of them hit like this one.
Yeah,
Because it's like,
you
I
gotta
mean,
get on your
obviously they're all different authors and, everyone is on a
yeah.
different skill level. But,
You just gotta get on TikTok and be like, guys, help. What is
and I have,
similar?
I have things, I have things written down, but I think
Yeah.
I've realized I like Hermione fanfictions when they're in the real world. Well, not the real world. They're not in the Muggle world. When they're older and they have
Mm-hmm.
jobs. because the
Yeah,
ones where they go like back to Hogwarts or it's like an 8th year, I
it's
don't know
not
why. I
canon.
think because they feel too similar to the movie, and it's like I kind of
Yeah,
like how we can give them like jobs and they work in the
we can't be
wizarding world.
depraved with children.
I mean, they're not like, yeah. I'm just like, oh my.
No, I.
Speaking of ages in books, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I need you guys, I need the audience to. None of you have read this book because no one's read this book. And I feel bad because I never see anything about the Undertaking of Heart and Mercy.
Yeah, great book, by the way. We loved it. I
Yeah, it
loved
was.
it.
Well, I told Lucy. I'll tell you guys now. The Probably the only reason I continued that book was because Hart was so attractive. And I wanted to see more of him because I really liked his character, but like Mercy pissed me off. The world was cool, except she didn't do a great job of world building. But now in the second book, she
Yeah.
finally gives us a map. Girl, put that in the first one.
She got too many complaints. I'm a visual person.
Anyway, sorry, we've gotten really off track of Reckless, and
I just have a one closing thought
please.
about that, and it's about the novella. So I don't think she has confirmed if she's going to write a novella between now and then. I feel like she might, but
She will.
I read Powerful. I liked it. She did claim it was a tandem read in her recent video, Lauren Roberts, clearly. Um, which if it's a tandem read, babe, why did you release it so far after? I
Yeah.
digress.
Well, because I've heard that, like, I think one of the ACOTAR book or two of the ACOTAR books are a tandem
Or
read, but that
tandem
makes
reads.
sense because they're all out. So
It was fun. Like I agree. I think it would be a much better tandem read because there's so many gaps in time in Powerful because it is just little tidbits.
yeah,
Um, and I think throwing if we had put the Powerful in POV into Powerless, the book would have been too long and too confusing because then it adds like two whole new characters and like background plot that I think people wouldn't have liked.
yeah.
I do like it. I think it has value. I'm still mad about it because I don't think the transition from when Adina's in the dungeon slash like chained up to when she ends up in the arena, like it just blacks. It's I'm in the dungeon and I think they break her fingers and then it's just like I'm in the arena. I feel like we should have had a little bit more to bridge that. But not the point. I really hope if she writes a novella for Reckless that it is not about the resistance, like about Lenny and like the little gang that went and rescued
Fucking
her.
hope
First of
not.
all, I thought that was kind of
Boring,
like
sloppy.
I think it was a little I was surprised when they rescued her, but also it felt so pointless because she was there for half a chapter with them. And I think the reason we got no background on what they had been up to was because she's going to write a novella about them. And I don't want it. I will read it, but I don't want it. I don't care.
Like, I would love a Kai. No, not who the fuck Kit, the blonde one. I would love a Kit novella. I think that'd be
I don't think we're
cool.
going to get it because we got his POV in this, and then
That's what I
we're
was
going
gonna
to
say.
get.
Like, I don't
I
think
think
we're gonna get it.
the third book is just Kit. It's going to be like the Kit and Peyton show, and Kai being mopey on the side. I'm scared. I'm so scared.
And I'll eat it up if it's the Kit and Payton show and Kai being mopey because love that. Love a mopey little man.
Yeah, but I have my opinions. And fuck it. I don't think they should end up together.
I mean, I don't think they should end up together either. Um, but
I
it
am
creates some
glad though.
drama.
It does create drama. And I'm glad they didn't run off like Kai and Peyton were about to just be like, let's never go back. But I'm glad they didn't. The book would have ended. There would have been no third book.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I had a lot of negative poo poo comments to say, but I did like it.
I did like it too. I mean,
It just,
I like her world.
So Rachel had texted me and said, "Do you ever get that terrible gut feeling when you're reading books talking about
The novel love story.
yes." I said no, and then literally not even a few days later, I was reading Reckless, and I said, "No, I get it now," because I'm just
Yeah.
terrified that it's not. I guess that it's not going to turn out the way I want it to, or that just some fuck assery is going to happen in the end, and it
Yeah.
did. But like, I liked it.
Yeah, it was good. I think it was just I was so in the mood for fantasy.
Yeah,
And I felt like this the first one was just obviously giving so fantasy because it was like powers and
yeah.
the slum. Like it was so
I think we need a subgenre because I do think these books are fantasy, but I don't feel as they're as fantasy as maybe Lightlark, Nightbane, Akatar, which is very much fair. Like there needs to be fairies and fae fantasy, and then there needs to be real world fantasy where there's just dragons, or maybe people have random little like, oh, I can run fast powers.
well, that's interesting that you bring that up because something like Vicious is considered fantasy, but it's called urban fantasy because it's more superhero esque. It's more like Batman. This could happen. These are real people. They just have like cool, like superpowers. Whereas something like Lightlark, they have superpowers. But this is a new world. This isn't even Earth at this point.
Yeah.
But you could argue that Powerless takes place in Southern America.
Well, that's what everyone says.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it could take place
I
wherever you want it, baby. But it's almost like Hunger Games is not fantasy. Well, Hunger
and
Games is science
neither is
fiction.
Divergent.
Those are
Oh,
science fiction. People claiming that Shatter Me is fantasy, don't.
science fiction.
That's science fiction.
I agree. See, I guess maybe, but this doesn't really fall in the science fiction category. But
It's
I
a
don't think it's
weird
quite fantasy enough.
because something like
Like, what is the selection under? Because I feel like the last book's going to be a lot like the selection, which came out forever and a half ago. And Rachel, I don't think Rachel read it, but um,
I don't know. I don't even know what to like because to me, fantasy, you have to have like I'm gonna fucking talk about House of the Dragon. Sorry. That's fantasy. Maybe it's just
yeah.
because there's dragons in it. So it's like this really wouldn't exist. But it's so you would love it. It's very Dance of Thieves, low key.
Noted. Because
How are
Dance of
you going to
Thieves would be
kill
fantasy.
all of your family and then serve cunt? It's incredible.
Oh,
Sorry. What were you saying?
Dance of Thieves would be fantasy. But there's just something about the Powerless franchise that doesn't feel fantasy enough.
I
In the
know.
same way that, like, I guess Hunger Games isn't fantasy, it's sci fi dystopian. But
Yeah.
this isn't really dystopian either.
Yeah, because dystopian you have to like I feel like you have to set it up as it's so far in the future, obviously. Um,
Yeah.
but like in this, in Powerless, the people have the powers, so that's kind of fantasy because Lightlark people have powers,
Yeah.
but there's also like different realms, and like they're on a completely different like planet, really. Like,
I couldn't even imagine that existing, but like this, it's giving like Les Mis with the bread. I don't know.
it is giving Les Mis. You're so yeah. It's just giving like revolutionary France. I'm not like these people couldn't exist because these people like they have
No.
like fire powers and like stuff. Yeah, it's I'm gonna say it's more urban fantasy, something like
Yeah, I'd
Vicious.
agree with that.
There's superpowers and things maybe
Doesn't feel
probably
magical enough.
yeah. It almost looks like to me the world of Powerless, like the way everything's like set up in the buildings and the slums and very medieval England. Like
Yes.
dirty and groves, but then there's a castle. Um,
Well, there's
so
royalty.
yeah, it's more medieval actually, but I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of fantasies based in medieval
Esque.
like
Yeah,
lore.
I agree. I don't know. She's in a category of her own. I don't know.
I don't know. I'll call it
Well,
urban fantasy for now.
I'm good with that. I, I just don't think I'll be this passionate about a book for a while. Sorry. That's all I'm going to say.
I no, I am so excited. I just remembered the other day that Apprentice to the Villain is coming out in like a few weeks. That might be my most anticipated release of the year. I'm
I
so
think
excited for that.
I was looking at that list and I was like, oh, wait, that's coming up?
And then Grandest Game, which is an Inheritance Games novel.
I still need to read The Final Gambit and then The Brothers Hawthorne.
Well, I found out because I didn't really know a lot about it because I knew the plot of going in like from Final Gambit and Brothers Hawthorne. Like I knew what was going to go on,
Mm-hmm.
but spoiler alert, I don't think it's going to have our like original gang.
It's like a
It might have
flashback
glimpses of
slash
them, but it's
forward.
not really about them.
Oh,
I know.
it's not my favorite series. It lacks
I
something
like
for
it.
me.
It's very like I almost feel like I'm in like middle school when I'm like reading it.
Yeah. I think it lacks
Um
something for me because it's something I would have read when I was younger and really enjoyed, but now that I'm a little bit older, still gonna finish it. Still have to know what happens, but like
yeah.
it's been like 2 or 3 months since I finished the Hawthorne Legacy, and I still haven't picked up the Final Gambit.
Yeah.
We'll see.
That's like Ruthless Vows for me or Divine Rivals. I'm like I
Yeah,
just don't know if I really care anymore.
I just have
That
to finish it because I don't want to DNF it.
yeah. That's
It's not worth
a
it.
genre I don't even know how to describe. World War One fantasy. That's what it is.
I don't know. Well, I'm making no promises on anything I'm going to finish in the next 6 months. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
So that's all I got. I came organized, ready, prepared.
She really did. I'm very proud.
Ugh. Maybe next time. I will. I don't know. Like, even if I reread Nightbane, I couldn't tell you what's going to happen in Sky Shade because she does such a good job of concealing. She's never letting us know her next move. But I
That's
feel
what I
like Lauren
love.
Roberts she's a little transparent. Not It's not a bad thing. I
Yeah.
feel like I've clocked half the plot in the next book, and prove me wrong. I actually beg, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
I love something like I think I'm just like looking at my books. I really think Lightlark is probably my favorite fantasy that we've read. There's like there's something about it.
It might be the standard.
And everyone was saying that Powerless would be the standard once they read it because it included every trope that we love.
No, I don't think
But
it's
there's something to say about like you're just throwing out exactly what the girls want. You know?
it's not a bad thing. And she even admitted in the video that she wrote Powerless because she wanted to see what she wanted in a book, and it was just an amalgamation of everything she liked, and that's
And it
fine because it's
slayed.
everything I like too.
Yeah, and it was so
But
good.
it's not setting the standard because it just takes the standard of everything else.
Yeah, I think Lightlark is such a different world than I've read. And I
Yeah.
think I've learned, dare I say, I think I've learned I don't like the fairies and fae thing. It's too complicated for me.
I think it's hard if it's not set up right.
Because I was thinking about
Or if you read
um
one series and they have all this set of rules, and you read another series and they have a completely different set of rules, but it's still fairy and fae. But there's
because
like,
yeah. I'm sure the girls all know about the new book that's going around on the TikTok, the clock app. um and I talked to Lucy a little bit about this, but it's a book
Rachel
called
keeps me informed.
Quicksilver. I do. It's a book called Quicksilver, and it was written by like some random like she was just gonna like self-publish this to like Amazon or whatever, but then it kind of blew up because a few people read it and they were like, "Oh, it's kind of the new ACOTAR." People are saying.
Who
Um,
who wrote it?
God, I think her name is Callie something. Let me find
Callie
it.
Hart. Okay. Oh,
Um,
I'm seeing the cover.
yeah, the cover I don't really like that. Why he look like that? I don't know.
588 pages.
That's what I said.
That's
No, it's a
ill.
fantasy. Well, because she has to set up basically a new fairies and fae lore because he is
So
a fae knight. I think. I think he's like a knight.
do not touch the sword. Do not turn the key.
It's basically like this girl is human, but then she stumbles upon the fae world, or she comes in contact with death, which I was like, oh, you kind of got me there. But then she meets like hot knight fae man. His name's like Kingslayer. Which what the hell?
I'm not looking you in the eyes and calling you that. Thank you.
I'm not looking you in the eyes. I'm hoping there's like a nickname, but I don't know. Like, do I
He's gotta
read
have a
it?
real name. Because all fays have real and fake names.
Yeah, what was I gonna say? I was because I kept seeing it on TikTok, so then I was like, I'm gonna actually look it up on Goodreads and read the plot summary.
It's a lot of words I already don't know how to say.
Exactly. It's also a long plot summary.
Kingfisher.
Kingfisher? I thought it was Kingslayer. Whatever, same deal. Quicksilver, right? That's what it's called. I feel drunk.
It's a fae warrior.
His name is
Who has
Kingfisher?
secrets
That's a bird.
Is a bird. Her alchemist magic.
I
Death
do
has a
like that
name.
it says Quicksilver contains depictions of graphic violence, adult situations, and therefore recommended for reader 17 plus. I do like that. But I was
I'm
thinking about
adding
it
it to
because I
my
was like,
list.
oh, this is a new Fae book. Like this is another, and then I was thinking about Cruel Prince, and I was like, I can't deal with that again. I can't deal with Stolen Air. Like I can't do it because it's just like it's. And I think that's why I can't read ACOTAR because I don't want people with wings. I don't want like. I like fantasy where they feel human.
Well, okay.
They can have
so
powers. They can fly. Like what's his name in Light Lark? Azul can fly, but like he's just a superhero.
yeah,
It freaks me out when they're like all half bat.
I don't want that. Bats are weird. The first rating, 3 stars. I did have a lot of fun with it, but I can't ignore some of the issues I had with it, especially in the first 65% of the book. The second one, DNF'd at 30%. If I had a nickel for every time I read a book where a human girl ends up in the fairy world, I'd have a lot of nickels. But if I wait, hold on. But if I had a nickel for every time I read a book that like that was actually good, I don't even know if I've had 2 nickels.
Ooh.
Ooh. Uh, mm, Not the top of my list. Maybe I'll come back to it one day.
It's not the top of my list, but we do have Undermining.
I need to read that. I still need to read the rest of Once Upon a Broken Heart.
I still have Caraval sitting on my shelf. I'm like,
Oh, I went through and marked all the books that I haven't read yet, and there's just a few too many. It's just a scary amount on the bookshelf. And then I went and bought more books. Oh, God.
yeah.
Well, till next
Let
time.
us know what you're reading, audience.
Yeah, we're actually really curious. I feel like we're going to eat some of these up in the next few months, but there's going to be a stall period between August and like maybe, well, there's August to November until the next Lila Sage book comes out. Right? Doesn't the third one come out in November?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm sure we'll
does
get
this
some
one-
more
when does,
announcements.
Wild Eyes come out. I think I wrote that one on the list.
Who's Wild Eyes?
The Wild Love sequel, the next one in the single
Oh.
dad thing.
I gave up on that one. I said she'll get to it when she gets to it. um, but I think we'll probably get some more announcements coming up of books coming out in the November, December, January time. But as of right now, I don't really have anything on the horizon. So I'm hopefully going to use this time to get caught up on 1,000,001 books I've been crazy enough to buy and just let sit on my shelf. I used
September
to be like,
3rd.
oh, sooner than I thought. Um, but I don't know. It's always overwhelming. Why do I do this to myself?
Yeah.
So, well,
Well,
bye everybody. Thanks for listening to my crazy theories.
no, I loved it.